All right, welcome back to my learning accordion journey. It has now been 2 weeks since I've started learning accordion, and I will say after this week of practice, I did not get as much practice time in as I wanted to, but that's okay. I think when you're an adult and you have stuff going on, there's just going to be days and weeks where things come up and you can't get to what you need to. But when I did have practice, I was pretty satisfied with how it was going. I think because of the nature of how the content is changing, it was a little difficult at first, and then something just switches in your brain and you understand it, which is a really cool thing. And so we'll go back and talk about the lesson I had on Wednesday. It was a good lesson. We moved fairly quickly, reviewed what we knew, talked about if I had any real struggles brought up. And when I was playing, what I practice, teacher said that I need to focus on making sure that I release all my notes before moving bellows the opposite direction. Usually that happened on the right hand because I'm playing really short notes on the left hand, and I'm doing a good job of playing smoothly on that right hand. But what's happening is when I go to change that bellow direction, I might be holding on for, I don't know, a fraction of a second. And I personally couldn't really hear it when she was like, "Did you hear that?" And I'd go, "Yeah, I did." I wasn't the biggest identifier of that, maybe just because I was focused on playing the next piece of music. But it was a large focus on take your fingers off and just make sure once you're changing that direction, you don't want another sound in between there. And so we moved on. We got a few new pieces to study and learn. And really, she said, we have this focus on the bellows right now, but when we're learning newer and harder pieces, let's just put all the parts together, and the bellows should be the last thing you're really practicing on. Make sure you're confident playing that right hand alone, left hand alone, playing them together, and then after that, you can worry about the phrasing, making sure you're taking your hands off for the bellows. But she just wants to push me in that right direction so that I know what I'm messing up and sounding clean. And so now we moved on from just doing, whole notes on the right hand and quarter notes on the left hand. Then we moved to quarter notes on the right hand, quarter notes on the left hand. And now we introduced half notes. And so you would have two notes on the left hand played with one on the right and then switching that third. And that jump was a lot more difficult than I thought was going to be, just because I had the notion that, hey, once I play my 1, 2, 3, I'm going back to 1. But it was either both hands were moving at the same time or I was holding one. It wasn't this switch on just the third note going into the fourth. And with the song they introduced this to practice this with, it really changed the musical idea in chorus, because there's a pickup at the start of the song. And so it's not just in your measures, but that next idea, that bellow change direction, is coming on that third note in the 3/4 measure rather than on one. And so here's a piece of what I got it to. I know I still have to work and make it sound a little more smooth, but I think my brain just has to catch up to, it's okay to have that pickup note, which might be on the last note of playing a major chord on the left hand. So here's what that one sounded like. After that was done, we started adding some 4/4 songs, and the difficulty with 4/4 songs is like it's so common. I played saxophone, I've played bass guitar, like I know what a 4/4 song is and what it sounds like, but everything I've been learning has been in 3/4, either a waltzy tone or a polka tone, and that's all the music I'm familiar with on an accordion. And well, even a polka's in 4/4, but it has this 1, 2, 3 feel. And so when it was introducing 4/4, I was so used to an pa pa, but now it needs to be pa pa pa, which was just a little switch for my brain. And so initially it was more difficult, especially same struggle if I had Three beats held down on the right hand, and then that fourth hand before going on to the next. It's like I'm so used to playing three beats, like I'm ready to go down and play the chord on one. But I think after practicing it a while, it just started to make sense. I can't explain that there was anything special I did, but things just kind of clicked, and I think that's part of learning music or any new thing is you just do it enough and it just makes sense at some point. There's probably technical reasons it makes sense, but at the end of the day, your brain just goes, yeah, you can do this now. It makes sense. And so the final piece I was left with was this holiday tune of Jingle Bells. We're still kind of in the Christmas season. It is. We just got hit with huge snow the other day. But here's Jingle Bells. And Jingle Bells actually introduced the D chord. So now I'm working with four chords when reading music. And then I actually had half notes chords while I was playing that through in the middle of a phrase, not just at the end of the song. So that was a little toss up that I had to go over and practice a few times. I know looking forward and going forward, we're going to start adding a lot of chords more quickly. And I believe she mentioned we might be playing stuff on the bass line, which is holding your left hand like this up here so you can move across the bass lines. I think I'm going to have to practice really hard and start studying bass clef a lot more just because of how the accordion is laid out, in that it's not just scaling notes like a piano over here, but it's actually in the circle of fifths. So if your note is just moving up one note, it's not like one button. You might have to jump somewhere else. So that's something I'm sure I will figure out as I go along, but definitely might need some more practice time in that. But we're getting close to the end of this intro learning book of Palmer Hughes, and I've been instructed to order the next book. So that's really exciting. I thought this was something that would take maybe 2-3 months, especially watching some content online about, hey, if this is your practice schedule, it's going to take you this long. But I think just having that teacher aspect of it has pushed me so much farther. And so I am so grateful that I'm lucky enough to have someone to do that. But I don't necessarily think that means if I didn't have a teacher, I wouldn't have been able to do that. But this keeps me more disciplined, making sure I stay practice and can bring what I have to the next lesson. So that's 2 weeks of learning accordion. It hasn't felt as short as 2 weeks, but that's what it's been. So we'll be back for week 3 of the updates.